Part 52. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 511. Chapter 511 Birthday Warm-Up. I haven't spent much time with you these past few days, so I'll stay with you at home today, okay? Morning sunlight quietly shines through the glass. It successfully added a touch of warmth to the room. He used his slightly stern chin to rub her cheek as smooth as an egg. Made Sunian feel a little itchy. Okay, let's not waste time and get up. Lee Baikan let go of Sunian. And Sunian looked at the man getting up and couldn't help but curse. It seems in the novels are all nonsense. Lee Baikan's body stiffened. Lee Baikan. Is it really not possible? No wonder it was so fast in my previous life. Sunian's messy words really made Lee Baikan dumbfounded. Early in the morning, this little woman started thinking about random things. Lee Baikan felt that it was not suitable to stay here for a long time. Half an hour later, Lee Baikan drove Sunian out. Sunian looked at the scenery outside. It's something that comes to light later. Tomorrow is my birthday, this guy can't possibly want to celebrate my birthday. No, even if it's my birthday, it should be tomorrow. It can't be that this guy has remembered the wrong date. Lee Baikan, who was driving, glanced at the woman next to him when he heard this. Sure enough, he saw Sunian's serious expression. But he didn't say anything. Instead, keep driving. Wait until we got to the place. Sunian was a little speechless. Because there is a mountain in front of her. It's mountain climbing again. Baikan, did you stop working for a day just to accompany me to climb the mountain? Sunian couldn't help but ask. Lee Baikan held her hand. The air in this mountain is very good. Let's go up there and take a walk. Moreover, you stay at home every day and don't have much time to exercise. If this continues, your body may have some problems. Just have time, I want to exercise with you. Hee, it is not easy for me to exercise. Find me a fitness club with many men with great figures. I will definitely exercise every day and exercise my body well. Lee Baikan. Haha, there won't be that chance. Lee Baikan held Sunian's hand and walked slowly. This made Sunian couldn't help but think of the day when Lee Baikan took him to ask for the date of receiving the certificate. Lee Baikan's pious appearance appeared in Sunian's mind. Sunian felt hot in his heart and couldn't help but retract his thoughts. Did not take a few steps. I saw a huge gift box in the middle of the road. Seeing the gift box, Sunian subconsciously said, who is so unqualified, littering here casually? Destroying the environment. Lee Baikan, who was originally looking forward to Sunian's reaction when he saw the gift box. Lee Baikan couldn't help but cough a few times. I think this gift box is well packaged. It shouldn't be littered. Why don't you open it and take a look? Sunian looked at him when he heard this. Is this a gift for me? Lee Baikan answered Sunian's question with expectant eyes. This made Sunian even more sure. This guy really remembered my birthday wrongly. He kept saying he loved me, but he forgot the date of my birthday, because I didn't rely on him properly. Lee Baikan didn't know what to say. This reminded Lee Baikan of Sunian's complaints that he was a straight man. If you are a straight man, then Sunian must be a straight woman. Doesn't she know how to warm up her birthday? End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 512. Chapter 512 Birthday Cake. Sunian walked to the gift box and opened it. I saw a teddy bear. The teddy bear is covered in sparkling pink diamonds. This teddy bear is very flashy. The kind that blinds one's eyes. Susu, you picked up such a special teddy bear just after crawling for a while. It seems that we are in the right place this time. Sunian laughed when she heard this, but she didn't hear Lee Baiken admit that it was a birthday gift to her, and she didn't want to say it. Instead, he followed Lee Baiken's words, "You can encounter such a big bear just after taking a few steps. If you go forward, will you pick up other things?" Lee Baiken looked puzzled and looked like he was thinking, it should be possible. Why don't we continue to move forward and see? Sunian picked up the bear. It was quite heavy and it was a bit inconvenient to walk in. At this moment, Josu suddenly jumped out of nowhere, "Madam, it's a little inconvenient for you to carry her around like this, so I'd better hold her for you." Sunian was startled by the sudden appearance of Josu. She handed over the teddy bear with a confused look on her face. Then Josu picked up the bear and ran away. "Don't give Sunian a chance to speak at all. Let's go forward," Lee Baiken reminded. Sunian came to his senses and followed him obediently. After walking a few steps, she encountered another box and opened it to reveal a necklace. In this way, she encountered a box every time she walked. Each box contains a different gift. Although the things surprised Sunian. But this method aroused Sunian's curiosity. And curious about what gift will be given next. This is the same mentality as opening a blind box. Finally reached the top of the mountain and saw a mountain hut. "Is this also a gift?" Sunian looked at Lee Baiken curiously. "Let's go in and have a look." Lee Baiken did not answer directly. Sunian opened the door of the hut when he heard this. The decoration in the hut is very simple, not particularly luxurious or romantic. It even has a hint of coldness. You can tell at a glance that no one has lived here. But what attracted Sunian the most was what was on the table. There is an oven, eggs, candles, cake hats, and flour. "Tomorrow is your birthday, and I brought you here today. Do you want to know why?" The man hugged her from behind and said in a low voice, "That's because I have been thinking about this for the past few days. I want to give you something, jewelry, or something. It seems that you have all kinds of jewelry and you don't care about the house, so I want to give you a birthday cake, the kind that I made by myself." The man spoke calmly. But it made Sunian a little confused. Cake. This guy can't tell the difference between salt and alkali. Can the cake he makes be eaten? Have you been learning how to make cakes these days? Well, maybe you can't eat it, but you can see it. Lee Baiken raised his eyebrows slightly, and then let go of Sunian. "You should know about my cooking skills. We just want to be able to see it. This is why I prepared it in advance. The reason why I brought you here is to start making it a day in advance. I think with such ample time, I should be able to make a beautiful birthday cake." Lee Baiken's voice showed a guilty conscience as he spoke. Sunian couldn't help but laugh when she saw the omnipotent man in the mall like this. "No matter how terrible your food is, I will still eat it." But when Lee Baiken heard this, he shook his head. "No, what should I do if I have a bad stomach? In the end, I will be the one who feels bad. Guess what the last birthday gift is?" Friendly reminder, what Sunian wants the most, he. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 513. Chapter 513. How about you give me another chance and let me try? Lee Baiken took off his coat and rolled up his sleeves casually. "Pick up the flour and start working." Sunian watched from the side, wondering if it was her imagination. Looking at the busy man, she actually saw that he was somewhat skillful. When this idea appeared in Sunian's mind, she was shocked. How could Lee Baiken be able to make cakes? No matter what description he was given in the novel, there was no description of him being able to cook. Moreover, this guy had cooked before. How could I feel that this guy was skilled? When thinking of this, Sunian suddenly remembered that Li Baikan had been extremely busy these days. Hardly even had time to talk to her. Look at the man in front of you again. It is natural to beat eggs with one hand and then separate the egg whites. Seeing this scene, Sunian subconsciously asked, "Have you been learning to make cakes these days?" "Well, because I can't think of what gifts to give, just like those things you opened on the road before." You just smiled briefly. Maybe it might make your eyes light up temporarily, but you can't remember it. There is no way. Ah, that brat I've never met has given away everything he needs to give away. If he gives it away again, Sunian will definitely feel inferior to that brat. He has to prove that is still hotter when old. Sunian stiffened after listening to Li Baikan's words. At this moment, Li Baikan stopped what he was doing and raised his head to look at Sunian. "Maybe my current level is not very good, but I promise here that I will learn slowly. From now on your birthday every year I make all the cakes. You want to make me a birthday cake every year?" "Yes, I will make you a birthday cake every year until you are 80 years old, and then we will be full of children and grandchildren." When he said this, Li Baikan paused slightly. "Well, thinking about it this way, I still have some smart. After all, you are 70 and 80 years old and you have no teeth, but you can still eat." Li Baikan's words successfully made Sunian laugh. She walked to Li Baikan's side. "What if I get tired of eating?" "Probably not, after all, it's only once a year, and if I waste my brains to make you a unique cake, if by the time we are 70 or 80 years old, you are really tired of eating it and don't want to eat it, then I can only hope that you can show favor to this old man." Li Baikan's voice was very calm. "But people can't help but imagine what he will look like when he is 70 or 80. Sunian couldn't help but laugh. No matter how smart Li Baikan was, he was still a novice, and he quickly became confused. "Either I put too much flour, or I accidentally knocked over the egg white. The whole kitchen looks like a war scene." At this time, Li Baikan was not strategizing like he usually did when sitting in the CEO's office. Everything was under his control, and there was even a little sweat on his forehead. "Well, it's okay. If you give me another chance, I will definitely make a cake," he said quickly when he threw the first failed cake into the trash can. Sunian didn't say anything, just watched quietly. Watching him busy in the kitchen all afternoon. At night, finally a decent cake was made. Li Baikan was a little embarrassed looking at the cake. "How about you give me another chance and let me try it again?" End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 514. Chapter 514 Birthday Wish. Just when Li Baikan was about to take the cake away, Sunian held his wrist and said, "This is enough. We will have many birthdays in the future. You'd better leave some room for improvement for yourself, so that next year, I'll be there again. There are surprises." Hearing this, Li Baikan gave up the idea of redoing it. Li Baikan brought the prepared candles. The two of them were sitting on the sofa outside, waiting for the arrival of 0 o'clock. As night fell slowly, the starry sky slowly appeared above their heads. "It's so beautiful looking at the starry sky," Sunian couldn't help but sigh. "It's the best place to see stars here. I checked and it said that there will be a meteor shower today." Sunian withdrew her gaze and looked at the man. "Is this considered a birthday gift?" "Forget it." Sunian smiled and continued to stay in his arms. Then I heard the man say softly, "If there is a meteor shower later and it's your birthday, your wish will definitely come true." Hearing this, Sunian felt that Li Baikan was treating her like a child. "Is it true that any wish can come true?" Li Baikan held her wrist. "Yes, any wish can come true. In the coming time." Neither of them spoke much. "Stay quietly like this, the time will soon reach 0. After Li Baikan lit the candles, Sunian put his hands together and closed his eyes. Li Baikan thought her wish was to give birth to a calligraphy treasure as soon as possible. But the moment Sunian's voice sounded in his mind, he couldn't help being stunned. The reason why this is so is because Sunian's wish is, I hope that Li Baikan can be in peace in this life and be able to celebrate his 80th birthday with me. Her wish is not for the calligraphy treasure she has longed for, but for him. Sunian finished making her wish and blew out the candles. She looked up, and to her surprise, she actually saw a shooting star. When Li Baikan said it just now, Sunian thought that Li Baikan was deceiving him and did not expect that there was really a shooting star. Baikan, look, there are really shooting stars. Sunian pointed to the sky like a child. But the next moment, Li Baikan reached out and pulled her into his arms. He pressed her forehead against hers and looked into her eyes. I'm not lying to you. There really are shooting stars. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so did you cherish it and make a wish seriously? Li Baikan wanted to know whether the wish she made just now was really because of him, or whether she wanted that brat in the future to have a father. Although Li Baikan knew very well that this might be asking for shame, but he still wanted to know. Even if it was a little bit just now. Just a little bit is fine. Sunian's mind was a little dazed at this time. If you make a wish seriously, it will come true. Yes, but only if you make your wish seriously. A smile bloomed on Sunian's face. That's good. I was making a wish seriously just now. I hope the wish I just made can come true. I think it would be a good choice to have Li Baikan accompany me and live with him for the rest of my life. When I heard this, joy came over me like a tide. She wanted him to be with her, not because he was the father of her future child, but because of who he was. The temperature between the two of them is slowly rising. He couldn't help but kiss her lips. Sunian heard the man whispering in his ear, "Happy 26th birthday, my baby." The deep voice made Sunian shudder. Then his kiss fell on her body, sinking her body inch by inch. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 515. Chapter 515. The last gift is me, don't dislike it, okay? He hugged her and walked into the bedroom. When the expected day arrives, Sunian is not as bold as usual and always thinks wildly. But when the day finally came, her body couldn't help but tremble. After all, it was that night in my previous life. It's really not particularly beautiful. She clutched his shirt tightly. When the distant sky is white. Li Baikan reluctantly kissed the little woman in his arms who was too tired to open her eyes. There is no rush, they still have a lot of time. You can do it slowly. He hugged the person a little tighter and closed his eyes. At first, Li Baikan thought he couldn't sleep at all, but unexpectedly he fell into a dream very quickly. In other words, he was dreaming again. This time when he looked at the hospital he was in, he suddenly became uneasy. Why are you in the hospital? What happened to Sunian? Did Sunian encounter any danger in his previous life? Baikan, I beg you, my spirit in heaven, it's okay even if you don't like Sunian. I beg you, can you help her give birth to the child safely? The old man's voice sounded at this time. Li Baikan's heart suddenly tightened. He walked quickly towards the direction from which the sound came. Immediately I saw the white-haired old man kneeling on the ground, looking at the door of the delivery room with folded hands. Sunian is not giving birth, right? When this thought occurred, he walked directly inside. Then he saw the pale Sunian lying on the delivery bed. Ah! The pain hit her body quickly, making her expression extremely distorted. Li Baikan stretched out his hand to touch. But I couldn't touch it at all. It's okay, Susu, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Li Baikan tried hard to touch her. Why, I could meet her before, but why couldn't I meet her this time? The nurse next to her was also reminding her, Ms. Lee, please use your strength. This won't work. If you continue like this, you will have a dystocia, killing one person and two. Lee Baiken immediately roared angrily when he heard this voice, shut up. How could you say something that could kill two people in her ears at this time? How did the old man arrange it? Why is there such a situation? Although Lee Baiken knew that Sunian suffered a lot in his previous life. But reality proved that some things he thought were too simple. Ms. Lee, you have used so many methods and spent so much effort to get this child. Now is the most critical time. Do you want to fail? Lee Baiken. How could this nurse say such a thing? No matter how stupid Lee Baiken was, he understood that this nurse must have been arranged by someone else just to kill Sunian. Sunian, who was on the bed, also understood this. She grabbed the nurse and said, shut up. Ms. Lee, I am helping you. How can I shut up? Ms. Lee, please let me go. The most important thing for you now is to give birth to the child you calculated in your belly. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 516. Chapter 516 Lee Baiken, I am yours now, so you have to be responsible for me. Sunian immediately pushed the nurse to the ground. The people next to him were also shocked. Then they rushed towards Sunian. Sunian directly picked up the scalpel next to him and put it against his kidney. I know you are probably sent by Huo Linyuan. Please hurry up and deliver the baby to me. If there is something wrong with my baby, then I will stab him, break my kidneys and let Lan Zhen be buried with me. The people around him suddenly did not dare to act rashly. When Lee Baiken saw this scene, he couldn't help but kneel on the ground. Why did God let her suffer so much? Why? Holding a scalpel, giving birth to a child with the thought of dying together. Why should her thin body bear such a situation? Soon a loud cry sounded. Just like that, Lee Baiken watched her holding her newly born child, then dragging her newly born body out of the delivery room in a hurry. Nian, the old man suddenly became anxious when he saw Sunian looking in such a mess. Dad, someone in the delivery room wants to harm me. The old man took off his clothes and put them on Sunian. Don't be afraid. It's all Dad's fault that Dad is here. I won't let you get hurt, and I won't let anything happen to you. Sunian's pale face forced a smile. Dad, you have a grandson. The old man then turned his attention to the child in Sunian's arms. Seeing the infant child, the old man burst into tears. You have suffered, Nian, I have really suffered for you. Lee Baiken looked at the scene and couldn't help but lower his head. After waking up from the dream, he subconsciously looked at the woman beside him. When you see a woman's peaceful sleeping face, he couldn't help but reach out and touch it. After suffering so much, I still want to give birth to Mo. It's really stupid. He carefully held her in his arms. Lee Baiken knew very well that the reason Sunian wanted to have a child was because she had no family or relatives. So what he had to do was give her a home. Give the love you want. Sunian, who was sleeping soundly, opened his eyes drowsily. When I saw Lee Baiken's face, I felt a little confused. Lee Baiken kissed her cheek lovingly. Happy birthday, baby. Believe me, I will not let what happened in my previous life happen. I won't let you get hurt at all. I will make those who hurt you pay the price they deserve. Lee Baiken swore secretly in his heart. When he first became conscious, Lee Baiken felt that he was being played by God. He once secretly hated God, but now, he can only feel grateful. Thank God for giving him this opportunity. Sunian also came to his senses. During these kisses from Lee Baikin, vague images appeared in Sunian's mind. Sunian. Did I get Lee Baikin's virginity last night? Am I not dreaming? Lee Baikin. Lee Baikin's panic was immediately soothed. He raised his eyes and saw Sunian's rolling eyes. He leaned close to her ear. I am yours now, so you have to be responsible for me and don't abandon me. Of course, you have no chance to get rid of me. I will pester you and rely on you like this for the rest of my life. Last night, when he heard Sunian's birthday wish, he couldn't control it. But what needs to be said still needs to be said. Let this little woman know that it is impossible to leave the father and leave the son. These words made Sunian a little confused. Am I yours now? If I remember correctly, it should be my words. This guy stole my words, so what should I say? I know what you want to see, but I can't write it in too much detail. The reason why I published this book is because the editor asked me to revise a book I wrote before. That book had too many cars. It was so difficult to fix it that I couldn't fix it even if I knelt down to fix it, hee. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 517. Chapter 517 MMP, was prostituted for nothing. Why don't you speak? Don't you want to take responsibility? It seems like what you said is my line. Sunian couldn't help but speak. Lee Baikin smiled and kissed her face. Really? Anyway, I am yours now, and I will be yours for the rest of my life. For the sake of fairness, you can only be mine. You can't look at other men, and you can't do anything to me if other men are tempted. They can only treat me well and love me in this life. These words can be said to have completely amused Sunian. The transformation of a girl from woman to woman is very important. Sunian thought about his previous life. After that night, he received the news of Lee Baikin's death and all kinds of overwhelming accusations. Okay, Sunian responded. Lee Baikin laughed when he heard this. Immediately, they broke off and continued the kiss, continuing to be tired. But at this moment, the mobile phone rang. At first, Lee Baikin didn't want to pay attention to it, but why was it that he would not give up if he didn't answer the phone? Maybe there's something important. Sunian couldn't help but ask. Lee Baikin frowned slightly and could only go to get the phone. Now he feels a little regretful. He feels that he should have turned off his cell phone last night. If he had turned off his cell phone, no one would disturb him. Seeing old man displayed on the phone screen, he smiled and then pressed the answer button. The next moment, the old man's sonorous voice rang out, "You brat, where have you taken Nian? Bring it back to me quickly. Hurry up. Today is Nian's birthday. You can't mess around. If you mess around, then see how I deal with you, this brat." These words really gave Lee Baikin a headache. What does the old man want to do? Even if the old man was protecting Sunian, he wouldn't be so incomprehensible. It's Sunian's birthday. It's fine if he stays with her. Why is he getting involved? I'm accompanying her. If you have any gifts for Nian, Dad, just have them placed where we live so that we can see them when we go back. You brat, you don't know how to respect the elderly at all. You two can spend the night slowly in your world. Of course, the birthday gift should be given on the birthday. Only in this way can it be considered thoughtful. What are you doing? Come back quickly. Stop dawdling. If you dawdle again, then don't blame me for being angry. Although the old man said this, there was a smile in his voice. As soon as he heard this tone, he knew that the old man was joking. Just when Lee Baikin was about to hang up the phone, Sunian's voice rang in his mind. MMP, this guy Lee Baikin actually plotted against me. Lee Baikin turned his head in confusion and saw Sunian looking bad. Just when Lee Baikin was about to ask, Sunian's angry voice sounded again. This guy, him. He actually took measures last night. What the is this? He actually prostituted me for nothing. Author, the term white prostitution here is not an insulting term, but the term used on the internet at Bilibili. White, whoring. Hearing these two words, Lee Baiken's mouth twitched uncontrollably. The reason why Sunian was so angry was because she saw the mess in the trash can. This made Sunian feel very unhappy. The key is not to say anything yet. I still can't say anything about Lee Baiken, isn't this because I am suffering from boredom? End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 518. Chapter 518. Don't you want to live a world of two with me? This made Sunian couldn't help but recall the scene last night. She has to learn a lesson. Don't let free prostitution happen again. Last night, he kissed and kissed. She lost her mind. The whole person was being played with by him as casually as a doll. In the end, it's like a boat with leaves. What are you thinking about? Lee Baiken shamelessly surrounded Sunian from behind. No matter how depressed Sunian was, she couldn't show it. She smiled and said, I'm thinking about Dad, should we go back? After all, it's my honor for Dad to remember the birthday of a junior like me. We are like this. Being negligent is indeed a bit bad. He's trying to scare you. I think he would be happy to see our relationship improve. Sunian felt that he had to take advantage of some opportunities to persuade Lee Baiken to cooperate in making calligraphy treasures with him. Well, Dad will indeed be happy to see that our relationship is getting better and better. After all, Dad is so old, so he will also be very happy to see that our relationship is getting better and better. Hey, I can bring the topic to children's issues just by talking. Hee, I'm really a witty person. Lee Baiken kissed her on the cheek. I don't think the old man is old. He had a fight with several old men a few days ago and didn't get hurt at all, so don't worry, he has the same body and bones if you live for 20 or 30 years. Fight. Don't you want to live a world of two with me? When Sunian heard this, he looked into Lee Baiken's eyes. Seeing the sincerity in a man's eyes, just a little bit, she was bewitched by the sight. Fortunately, she is determined. Lee Baiken spoke before Sunian could say anything. This is my plan. The two of us will live together for 2 years, and then we will have a child in a few years. Sunian. That's right. What Lee Baiken did was to take the initiative. He was sure that Sunian didn't directly talk about the child, so he brought it up first. Shenma said that we will have another child in a few years. In a few years, my daylily will be cold. And he is already over 30 this year, and the quality of the seeds will not be able to keep up in a few years. Does this guy mean to have for nothing? Dream. But I want a child just like you, and my father is so old. I want to have for free, dreaming. After Sunian said this, Lee Baiken directly pressed her under him again. But we just became a real couple yesterday, you just got me yesterday, and you want another man today. My dear, you think so? It's not like you put up your skirt and don't recognize anyone. Put up your skirt and not recognize anyone? Humph, if I put up my skirt and don't recognize anyone, that's better than this guy who just digs the ground but doesn't plant seeds. Regarding Mo, this is a matter of principle for Sunian, and he will never give in. Baiken, I am not irresponsible. After all, I want to give birth to a child for you, not for others. I want to give birth to a child. A smaller version of you wants to have the crystallization of love with you. In this way, our two bloodlines can be merged together. Even if we are not in this world, there is still evidence of our love in this world. Lee Baiken thought about it too. But who makes the little woman in front of me want to leave her father and leave her son? In order to prevent himself from falling out of favor, he had to find a way. But the next moment, Lee Baiken's expression changed. Because Sunian put her arm around his neck and said, Baikan, I know there are some things I shouldn't say, but your age is also here. For the first time yesterday, your time was a little bit better. In case we have another child in a few years, if. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 519. Chapter 519 Sun Ying-er's Illusion. Last night. It was indeed a bit out of control for the first time. Originally, Lee Baikan really wanted to make a big move. I want to change my impression of Sunian. Tell her. That night in my previous life was an accident. He is not that useless. But he got a little excited during that process, just a little. But these are not important. I made a mistake the first time, but baby, did I make a mistake the second time. This successfully reminded Sunian of those shadowy scenes. The successful Sunian blushed shamelessly. I think I should do something after all. There are some things that just talking about are useless. Lee Baikan kissed Sunian. Then he pinned the person directly underneath him. Today is Sunian's birthday. All industries under the Lee Group are discounted, and company employees also receive various benefits. Even created a gesture of universal celebration. All this was seen by Lan Zhen. Lan Min was really a little restless at the moment. She was sitting in the wedding room of Sunian and Lee Baikan. Accompany Lu Jing to deliver gifts. Looking at the beaming servants. Can't help but think of last year. Although she and Lin Yuan were quarreling at this time last year, Baikan stayed with her to celebrate her birthday. But today, she felt like an outsider. At this moment, Lan Min looked at Lu Jing. But Lu Jing kept surrounding Sun Ying-er. He didn't even look at her. Lu Jing did indeed give her a gift as he said before. He simply said happy birthday and it was gone. Yes, it was really gone. He really does what he says. After waiting for a long time, Sunian and Lee Baikan didn't show up. This made Lu Jing a little impatient. He couldn't help complaining, where did Lee Baikan and the others go? Why haven't they come back for so long? We have been preparing for so long. Are you ready? Sun Ying-er looked at Lan Min next to her. Today is Nianyan's birthday. As her husband, Lee Baikan will definitely prepare surprises. It is normal for the two of them to spend time together. They just need to show up at the banquet in the evening. World of two people. 4 simple words stung Lan Min. At this moment, footsteps finally sounded. Everyone looked towards the door. Immediately I saw a pair of beautiful people coming together. Sun Ying-er hurriedly walked towards them. Nian, you are finally here. The moment Sunian saw Sun Ying-er, he broke away from Lee Baikan's hand and hugged Sun Ying-er. Elder sister. Happy birthday, I hope you will be happy every day in the next year. Sun Ying-er's words made Sunian laugh. Thank you for your blessing, sister. If you stay with me next year, I will definitely be happy every day. I don't know if it was Sun Ying-er's illusion. Sun Ying-er feels that Lee Baikan is a little weird today. Why does it feel like Lee Baikan is always staring at me? But after thinking about it, Sun Ying-er felt that she might have thought too much. After all, it was not the first day that she had contact with Sunian. If Lee Baikan didn't like his contact with Sunian, then Lee Baikan would have shown it already. And Sun Ying-er was not an illusion, it was Lee Baikan who was really a little unhappy. He didn't know why he was like this, he just didn't want to see Sunian get too close to others. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 520. Chapter 520 Throw it out. At this moment, Lan Min's weak voice sounded, Baikan. Those two simple words made Li Baikan's expression change immediately. After all, today is Sunian's birthday. Lan Min was such an unlucky person, and Li Baikan's anger suddenly emerged. That dream last night nearly caused Sunian to die in the delivery room. If Li Baikan's guess was correct, it must have been written by the woman Lan Min. My wife is the protagonist today. If you have anything to say, please tell my wife, Li Baikan said coldly. And Li Baikan spoke loudly. At once attracted everyone's attention. Sunian's face looked a little unhappy. As if I don't exist. Just hook up with my man directly. Li Baikan was a little unhappy at first and wanted to call the servants to get this Lan Min out. But he was successfully pleased by Sunian's words, my man. It seems that what he said before is still useful. Sunian has never been a generous person. She felt that since Li Baikan was eaten by her, it was hers. She didn't want to be a cuckold. She immediately walked up to Li Baikan again. Yes, Miss Lan, you are here. Just tell me what you want. After all, today is my birthday. If you want to talk to Baikan, then just wait for Baikan's birthday. You and Baikan have such a good relationship, you can't put me in the same relationship. His birthday is mixed up. I didn't, Lan Min said weakly. Sunian felt that she might have been a vicious female supporting role for a long time, and she really wanted to bully Lan Min when she saw her like this. Li Baikan smiled when he saw Sunian's majestic posture, and then pulled her into his arms, and then kissed her face. You stay here with your sister. Let me see what gift my sister gives you. Is there anything else you should pay attention to at the banquet tonight? Sunian nodded obediently. Such a well-behaved Sunian made Li Baikan suddenly not want to leave. In other words, I want to take her away. But when Li Baikan walked a few steps, Lan Min's voice rang out, Baikan, today is also my birthday. Have you forgotten? You once said that you would spend every birthday with me. Li Baikan stopped and said, do you want me to leave my wife and celebrate another woman's birthday? Miss Lan, aren't you afraid of being laughed at if this word spreads? After Li Baikan finished speaking, a servant immediately came to Lan Min's side. Without saying a word, he grabbed Lan Min's arm. Drag someone away. But during the process of dragging him away, Lan Min's eyes were fixed on Li Baikan. She hoped Li Baikan could take a look. Be able to take a real look at it? But Sunian was unhappy. Since Lan Min didn't want her to celebrate her birthday happily, of course she had to give it back. Ms. Lan, today is my birthday. There are many people staring at this place, and they are all respectable. Fortunately, you don't have to worry. You are not destined to be of our class anyway, so it doesn't seem to matter even if I throw you out. Lan Min's expression suddenly changed. Of course she knew the scale of tonight's birthday party. It can be said that all the famous people in the city will come and pay attention to Sunian's movements. If I were thrown out on this day, then it's over. Lanji subconsciously wanted to struggle. But of course Li Baikan would not give her a chance to struggle. Hey, what I wrote yesterday was so literary and artistic, but it was deleted. I feel bad. You know too much about this review. End of this chapter.